you, DJ. Thank you, Mr. DJ. 400 meters men. 400 meters men hurdles. 400 meters men hurdles. National record for 876 with a seasonal best of 50.58. We have from Lebanon, Mark Anthony Ibrahim. From Lebanon, it was
A landlocked country straddling the Tropic of Capricorn, Botswana offers one of the last unspoilt wildernesses left in Africa. With its huge game reserves and national parks, some of the largest herds in southern Africa roam free and wild, together with some of the continent's most spectacular and varied bird life. And of course, the Kalahari Desert also making up around 80% of its area. Botswana may have a tiny population relative to its landmass, just over 2 million inhabitants in an area the size of France and Germany combined. But it has a beauty that attracts travellers from far and wide. Welcome to the coverage of the Botswana Golden Grand Prix for 2024, live from the National Stadium in Gaborone, where the conditions are set fair. And as you can see, a healthy crowd is in, sheltering from some of the early afternoon sun. A packed schedule coming up in 25 degrees worth of Celsius. But early in the season for a lot of the athletes, but of course, a lot of outdoor warm conditions conducive to those who've been spending their time training and preparing over the last few months in Africa. That's the first page of our timetable coming up over the course of the next couple of hours, live wherever you're joining us from around the world. The field events will be getting underway with the men's shot put, with some European talent travelling over to Botswana for that event. And we're pretty much sprint heavy today. We do have a 3,000 metre steeplechase in there and a couple of 800 metres later on, but the rest of the programme is stacked full of sprints through the 1 to 400s and the 400 metre hurdles as well. I'm Chris Temple. I'm delighted to be joined by Hannah England for this one, the second meeting of the Continental Tour Gold from World Athletics after a great Maury Plant meeting in Melbourne. Hannah, now we move to Africa.
And there's still 5.5 months to go until the World Championships in Tokyo. With this new structure in the season, with the World Championships being pushed all the way to the end, the athletes have got plenty of time to find their feet in this 2025 season. And for many athletes, accumulating world ranking points as they try and qualify for Tokyo is super important. And to have this event here in Africa creates such a wonderful opportunity for a lot of those African athletes to collect world ranking points. It's probably one of their best chances of the whole season, and that's why we'll see so many African athletes across the next couple of hours. But the first event is going to be the men's 400 metre hurdles. There's the 8 athletes that are going to take to this track. We've heard that this track has been relaid, resprayed, repainted in the last couple of days, and it looks brand spanking new. And it's wonderful to see it finished in time and the athletes getting to whiz round this first event for the 400 metre hurdles.
You say wonderful to get it finished in time. I think there was a few sweaty palms over the course of the last couple of days. The lines painted very late on. There was a delay, I think, in some of the materials arriving, which meant that it just fell a little bit behind schedule. But as you can see, the first use, this is probably one of the newest tracks that's ever been used at this level of competition, we reckon, Hannah.
But it won't be kind of a stadium record or a meeting record. We have had this event here, the Continental Tour Gold, a couple of years ago, back in 2023, and there's some really good meeting records from that. But let's meet all 8 athletes. Mohammed Al-Marway of Saudi Arabia will go in lane 8. Is their national champion from 2024.
Saudi Arabia, the national champion.
Lifetime best of 49.92 set in 2023. This is Yabula Mtapa of South Africa. He's just 17 years old. He's gone underneath 50 seconds 3 times this season, perhaps trying to emulate the achievements of LJ Van Ziel, a World Championship medalist from South Africa. It's a 17-year-old already so quick, definitely one to watch. This is Vernick van Resenberg, also of South Africa, international medals with the 4x4, but he significantly improved his individual performances this year, obliterated the 50-second barrier all the way down to 49.24 this year. This is Victor Ntweng of Botswana, African champion in 2024. And he's just 600ths outside the national record, which stands with the athlete in lane 1, who we'll meet in a second. This is Wiseman Mukobi of Kenya, who was just off the Commonwealth Games podium in Birmingham in 2022, semi-finalist in Paris last year, and we'll see him in the 100 metres as well later on. So a busy afternoon for Mukobi. Sabelo Lamini of South Africa goes in lane 3. His 48.74 personal best in February was the world lead until the Grand Slam track event last week. In lane 2, Mark Ibrahim of Lebanon. He's their national record holder at 49.23, a 5-time national champion over the 400 hurdles and the 400 flat. The final athlete in lane 1 from Botswana, Komorena Tsang. He's just strolling off the picture there to the left-hand side. He is here, a tough lane draw for the national record holder. 48.76 is lifetime best set. Last year, in this stadium, it's All African Games bronze medalist over this event. So Tsang and Ntweng, the 2 fastest athletes ever for Botswana, going in lane 1 and lane 5, but I'm sure they'll have a keen eye on each other. But the full lineup in lane 1, Tsang of Botswana, Ibrahim of Lebanon, Lamini of South Africa, Mukobi of Kenya, Ntweng of Botswana, Van Rensburg of South Africa, Mbata of South Africa, and Al-Mawi of Saudi Arabia. Athletes just settling into their blocks. This is the first event here across 2 hours of action. We mentioned the heavy sprint focus here. We'll have a number of A and B events in many of the sprint events, but this is a straight final, just one A race for the men's 400-metre hurdles. See just some issues there with the start. We definitely heard the on your marks command. And there was a mixed response there to whether there was a gun. Perhaps one of the athletes moved and triggered some of the other athletes to get out of their blocks as well.
What's happening in lane 4, Hannah?
I think we have a volunteer
Holding the blocks?
Stabilising the blocks.
Yeah.
Perhaps some issues. We did mention this track is pretty new. It's just been relayed. And I think that athlete, perhaps when they were doing their warm-up, just deciding I need a bit of help. I need some support on the back of my blocks.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. When I call silence for the starter, we should.
So I think the official there in the stadium just indicating there might have been some crowd noise, just saying, calm down, you've got 2 hours till tomorrow, if we could just keep it under wraps. So we carry on the homecoming tour for the Olympic champion. We've got some other races to get underway. So the athletes just focused again. Or focus from the volunteer in lane 4 as well.
It's just the way he sat. Looks like he's just taking the best position. Where am I going to watch from? I'm going to go and sit by the lane block in lane 4.
Sold out the track level tickets. There's been a great turnout here so far for this Continental Tour Gold, and we expect the stands to fill up even more as we move towards the men's 200 at the end of the programme. But yes, that's the best seat in the house there in lane 4. It
is. Wiseman Mukobi's got an extra obstacle to negotiate on his way around here. It's probably, I mean, you know, I don't know how many 400s you've done over hurdles in your life, Hannah. Maybe not too many, but having somebody having to sit on your blocks is probably just in the back of your mind, isn't it? Hoping that you're going to be able to push off okay. But let's hope all goes well with that.
I think it's better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, right. it was probably just a little concern from Mukobi as he was warming up. And then, you know, if you can give yourself a bit of confidence that it's going to be okay. But this is Victor Ntweng of Botswana. Camera just focusing in on him. There is Wiseman Mukobi. That camera angle, you can't see his assistant.
Over to you, Mr. Starter.
So final preparations getting underway here. If you're just tuning in, it's the Botswana Golden Grand Prix, live from Gaborone, meeting number 2 of the Continental Tour Gold.
And the athletes, for the second time, heading towards their blocks. Keep your eye on the domestic battle between Ntweng in lane 5 and Tsang in lane 1. These two athletes separated by just 600ths. The 2 fastest ever athletes for Botswana up against some international competition here. And they're away, no problems this time. Great to see all 8 athletes making out of the blocks safely, and they all look pretty even through the first couple of flights here. Perhaps we can see Mr. Ntweng there of Botswana eating up the ground on the athletes outside of him. 17-year-old Mbata going well as well in lane 7 for South Africa, trying to stay with the senior athletes around him. Wiseman Makobe going well for Kenya as well in lane 4. As the athletes move towards around about 100 metres to go. Look at that, 5 athletes all clattering the hurdles, responding to the pressure from the athletes either side of them. Lamini of South Africa going well in lane 3. Makobe of Kenya just trying to stride away. An error from the athlete outside of him. Makobe does stride away in the final few metres. He ties up and dives over the line. I think that was perhaps Wiseman Makobe holding on for the win, but he was under pressure from Ntweng and Van Riesenberg and Mbata on the outside. What a tightly fought race there. There were errors left, right and centre. Ntweng looked like he was going to put Makobe under pressure in the last hurdle, but he just clattered it and lost a lot of momentum. Whereas Makobe, I think he would have been hoping for a 350-metre hurdles there. It nearly came undone in the last 50 metres for the Kenyan.
Well, it was all happening, as you said, Hannah, from that final barrier coming into the home straight where there were nearly 5 abreast there, and then it started to unravel for a few of them. Wiseman Makobe gets the flowers from one of our young volunteers, 49.08. But as you say, an error at the last hurdle, and then Makobe diving over the line. It wasn't clear because I don't think we could quite see all of the lanes on the outside as to where the challenges were coming and how close they were. But pretty even through this first 150 metres or so, certainly for the athletes on the outside. And then this is where the hurdles started to scatter. All of them, well, not that one so much, but as we come towards the final barrier, a little look at the athlete in the orange there, Ntweng. And then we get the dive as the lactic is absolutely flooding. Just wanted to see what the new track felt like.
Get up and close and personal with it. But Makobe, I think he did enough to hold on to the win there. And he's left a bit of himself down there on the new track as well. The track burn is not something to laugh about.
No, it's not.
Especially the newer the track, the harsher it would be. There's the unofficial results for the men's 400-metre hurdles at the moment. Mbata of South Africa, the 17-year-old, being given the win ahead of Makobe Wiseman by just 100th. I thought he might have been charging on the outside. And Victor Ntweng, despite clattering that final hurdle, does hold on for second place in 49.20. Mbata, the 17-year-old, if he has managed to turn the tables there on the 27-year-old Kenyan, it'd be a wonderful first competition at this level for the 17-year-old. He did go to the World Junior Championships, but now competing as a senior. That's a great result for him.
Big personal best as well, Hannah. We'd already be off the back of a new personal best of 49.4 this year, set in Pretoria in South Africa. Also at altitude, as of course this meeting in Gaborone is as well. Around about 1,000 metres or so of altitude, which when you're factoring it in against training camp venues and things is a relatively modest level of altitude. As we see the lineup for the women's 400 metres hurdles are next. Some very familiar global performers in this lineup. A late change actually to the advertised start list as well, because Rogel Joseph, who was going to go in the 400 metres flat, is actually now going to take on her more familiar event, the Olympic semi-finalist in lane 1 for South Africa. But Dalilah Mohammed, the former world record holder, multiple global medalist, former Olympic champion, of course, a world champion, on her farewell tour, if you like. We saw her in the Grand Slam track running pretty well, to be honest, given that she's had all manner of injury troubles over the last few years, of course. But now at 35 years of age, we'll see her very shortly. She has decided that this will be her final year. She says, I've selected my races a bit more sort of cautiously, not taking too many risks in the past, focusing on what she called the big shows. And now she said this year you're going to see a lot more of her. And I think being in Jamaica a few days ago and now being in Botswana is a very early indication of that.
But I think that's a lovely thing to do for Mohammed, just to say, I'm going to get on any plane that I can. I can go and see places I've maybe not managed to see so far in my career. And I'm sure she would love to make it all the way to Tokyo. But I think she's just saying, you know, I don't want to go through this last season being so stressed, being so focused on one outcome. I want to spread my chances here of having fun and leaving track and field on a high.
Well, she held the world record for a couple of years, of course, until a certain athlete called Sydney McLaughlin, as she was known then, Sydney McLaughlin Navroni now, came along in 2021. Still ranked number 3 in the all-time list with McLaughlin Navroni and Femke Bol. Ahead of her now is Dalilah Muhammad. But she ran 52.2 on the flat in Kingston and 54.5 over her more familiar barriers, of course, in that Grand Slam format with athletes taking on 2 races in a couple of days. And this is our lineup for this event. That is Zane Geldenhuys of South Africa, Olympic semi-finalist. Zane van der Walt, as she was known until last season. But we'll see our athletes from the outside, one or two of them having to jog back from their early strides. Jessica Wright at the USA, right on the outside. Part of the US World Indoor Relay silver medal winning team last year. There's Jana Woodruff of Panama, Pan American Games champion, also an Olympic and world finalist as well. She'll have Dalilah Muhammad just outside her. There's Dalilah in lane 5. We don't have too many American athletes spread throughout this meeting, but there are 4 in this event. So there is Jessica Wright, as we mentioned. She's had a few run-outs this year. She competed on the World Indoor Tour Gold in the indoor meeting in Astana, Kazakhstan, way back in the start of the winter, but has had a few, one rather outdoor run so far. There's Muhammad, lining up in lane 5. They're very big on silence here. They seem to allow the crowd about 2 minutes to get themselves into silence before we eventually get going. But Zane Geldenhuys. So we're not actually going to see the full lineup. I thought we were going to run through the lanes there. So I have to tell you, it's Jessica Wright on the outside. Cassandra Tate is on her inside for the US. Daniela Ledecka of Slovakia, European Championship finalist. Muhammad goes in 5. Jana Woodruff of Panama in 4. Zane Geldenhuys of South Africa in 3. Bianca Stubler of USA is in 2. And on the inside, that late change, Regale Joseph, the other of South Africa's Olympic semi-finalists, is right on the inside in lane 1. So where we go, keep your eye on Joseph. It's a horrible lane draw for her on the red, right on the inside. But she's got Geldenhuys, her teammate, in the white, a couple of lanes outside. But it's Dalilah Muhammad who's gone off very strongly. Ledecka outside her seems to have a problem maybe in these early stages, running very conservatively. But Dalilah Muhammad, down the back straight, has gone very strongly through this first 200 metres. Joseph on the inside is running well as well. And just outside of Geldenhuys in the white is Woodruff of Panama. Right on the outside, Jessica Wright of the USA. And Cassandra Tate is trying to follow Dalilah Muhammad as well, but it's Muhammad into the straight, leaving the rest of this field well behind at the moment. Muhammad, meters clear. 1 barrier still to go. Geldenhuys finishing strongly in the white. Tate's one from the outside, but it's Dalilah Muhammad rolling back the years here with a dominant performance in Gaborone. Excellent run from her. No one else could get near her in the end. Tate second, Geldenhuys finished 3rd, and it was Jana Woodruff in 4th. But the farewell global tour of Dalilah Muhammad this year in 2025 has its first outdoor win on the record.
Significant improvement from Kingston for Dalilah Muhammad, some 0.8 of a second. She mentioned, I think she was in one of the inside lanes in Kingston, and she said that was one of the tightest lanes she's ever had to do a 4 hurdles from. Looked a lot more comfortable here today out in lane 5. And that's put herself 2nd on the world list behind Sydney McLaughlin-Lavrone. She was 3rd. That's a good improvement with all that travel in her legs that you referenced, Chris. Coming from Jamaica all the way to Botswana, didn't seem to faze Muhammad at all.
Well, it was a dominant performance, wasn't it, from the word go, really. Some of those in the race, some of those I expect a little bit more from Joseph, maybe on the inside. Again, it's hard to know this early in the season what training blocks athletes have been in, but often you'd expect some of the African athletes, particularly those based out close in these warmer conditions at altitude as well, and certainly they were running very fast down the back straight, weren't they?
Lightning quick. I'm interested to see what's going on with the wind, perhaps when we get to some of the shorter sprints, because I could see Muhammad stuttering into maybe the 2nd hurdle, and does that mean there's a following wind around that bend? And we saw that with the men's as well, a lot of hitting of hurdles, and sometimes that can be the weather conditions, and obviously we don't get a wind reading in a race that goes the whole way around the track. But Muhammad, I think because of that stuttering there, I think she could go even quicker.
Confirmation of the winning time, 53.81, an improvement for Dalilah Muhammad, the former world record holder, Olympic and world gold medalist, ahead of Cassandra Tate and Zane Geldenhuys, the top African athlete in that field. And I mentioned look out for Regale Joseph. I mean, I wish I could delete that comment because she trailed in way last, so not quite sure what was happening there. We say a late change with the planned event schedule. She was due to go in the 400-metre flat, but swapping places with Galafele Morocco of Botswana. So we'll maybe find out in due course, A, what was behind that, and B, what was behind that very substandard performance from Rigel Joseph.
I mean, you often see lane 1 empty in a 4 hurdles. It is really tough to get yourself around the bend and get your stride pattern correct for the hurdles. Maybe at this time of year as well, if you haven't quite refined your technique absolutely perfectly, it's going to be exposed if you draw lane 1.
Well, Daniela, oh, here's Mohammed. Let's see if we hear from her.
Next event, 400 meters.
She sounds different.
Women B race is coming at.
Well, how's your lip reading, Hannah? We don't have any sound of this interview, unfortunately. So, yeah. I mean, I think she's hopefully saying she's really pleased to be at the meeting, and she's really pleased with the step forward. And let's see where the next few weeks take her.
And I do love that attitude you said, Chris, and she's just competing with a bit more freedom in terms of her schedule. And when you're so laser focused on getting a medal at a major championships and repeating that medal winning performance, as Mohammed managed for so many years, it must be just a bit of fun to say, you know what, I've done my last winter of hard training. Let's go and have some fun and get to show off that fitness and that hard work and a career's worth of hard work, really. So we're going to have 2 women's 400-metre races. The times will be compiled to find the overall winner. This first race, we haven't got any athletes out on the track yet, but this is due to be final B or final 1. And so the graphic, well, we'll have to wait and see which athletes we turn up with. There we go. That is what I'm expecting to be final B. Empty lane 1, and then Helena Vogel. Yeah, that's the field we were expecting. So a lot of athletes here positioned around about the 53.5 seconds or so based on season's best and personal best. So let's hope they can all work together, push themselves to some faster times. So no hurdles in the way this time. And as I mentioned, I was trying to have a look around the arena to see. I can't see much movement in terms of they've got some marquees there on the left-hand side, and the spectators have got their sun umbrellas up, so it can't be that windy, else they'd be blowing away. You know, it was confusing perhaps watching those hurdles, and perhaps it's early season rust rather than weather conditions, but we'll have to see how the times fare now over these 400-metre events.
We have Helene Vogel from Austria with a PB 50.
So we're just going to meet the athletes through the gate, which is great. So that was Helene Vogel. And this is Golikane Shikane, Precious Molepa, Hannah van Niekerk, Tompang Basile, Batsina Kanake, and Deline Mpiti. I think that was all of them whizzing through nice and quickly. I was wondering where they were. We could see the starters blocks in the empty lanes, but they were waiting for a proper introduction to the crowd. Great to see. I said that, yeah, this crowd is going to get bigger and bigger as we go towards Tobogho. But I love to see a crowd that's got a range of different ages in there. We've seen some really young children here with their parents, and it's great to see those young kids kind of get the opportunity to see world-class athletics and maybe be inspired a bit.
Well, he's certainly a flag bearer, not just for Botswana, let's see Tobago, isn't he, but African sprinting as a whole, and there'll be a lot of enthusiasm about his appearance in the 200 metres, which is one of the last events that we're going to see in this broadcast. But I was just totting up there, Hannah. There's 6 athletes walking out. We've got 7 on the start list, so again, without the one by one, until they actually arrive in the lanes, because we haven't got any names on vests, and we haven't got the list of the numbers here. So lane 8 doesn't seem to be there. Mpiti of South Africa. Okay,
that could be a missing athlete. We'll just hopefully we'll get a look at them one-on-one. I'll just give you some details about the ones that we do think are there. Helena Vogel just setting up her blocks there in lane 1 from Austria. Outright personal best set indoors this season, 56.03. I always think it's interesting if an athlete runs better than they ever have before in the indoor season. It can be really exciting what they might bring to the outdoor season. And that is Batsane Kanika of Botswana, and takes lane 7. Pretty close to 55 seconds this season, 55.02 in Francistown in February. And they're at 196. Is Tompang Basile, also of Botswana, personal best set here in 2023, 53 exactly. Lane 5 due to be Hannah van Niekerk of South Africa. The 20-year-old is the world junior bronze medalist over 400-metre hurdles. last year. So getting in a bit of speed work here on the flat 400. You can just see her playing around with her blocks.
Lane 3, Golekanye Kibonyi Chikanyi.
Precious Malepo of South Africa, second South African due to go in lane 4.
From Austria.
Fifth at the World Junior Championships a few years ago, back in 2021, when she was just 15 years old, Malepo. She's continued to build its experience in the African Championships and as part of the South African 4x4 squad. A pretty good early season form so far, 53.38. Golekane Shikane just doing her last block start there. She goes in lane 3 for Botswana. She's already raced here twice this season. Shikane, she should be very used to the arena and the warm-up procedures. There is Helena Vogel of Austria. That new lifetime best just outside 56 seconds. Wouldn't it be great if Vogel could use the opportunity here in Botswana to get underneath 56 seconds for the first time? So 6 athletes here in the first heat of the women's 400 metres. Late rise from Vogel on the inside, but luckily she did seem to hear the command and rise in time to make the start. Strong start from Kenekai at Botswana in lane 7 at the moment, but just as you say that, Basili, her teammate, already starting to stretch away down the back straight, opening up some daylight, certainly over Hannah van Niekerk, the 20-year-old, and Malepa of South Africa. She's ahead of her teammates so far, and Shikane in lane 3 for Botswana, trying to keep up with her teammates, but at the moment, it does look like Kaneka of Botswana, Basile of Botswana is running the strongest at the moment, the athlete in lane 6. Here they go as the stagger unwinds, as the lactic sets in. Precious Malepo of South Africa to the fore at the moment, but a lot can happen in the last 50 metres over 400, and it's happening for Hannah van Niekerk. The 20-year-old is striding away. What a well-judged, well-paced race from the World Junior bronze medalist. That 400 hurdles speed and strength coming to the fore at the end of this flat race. That was so patient from Hannah van Niekerk. She would have watched Precious Malepo whiz past her on the back straight. And she accepts the winner's flowers. And it's 52.74 unofficially for Hannah van Niekerk, which would be a massive personal best by around about a second or so.
Well, literally exactly a second, in fact. You're right, Hannah. That was such a well-judged run for somebody still very much growing at the senior level, the World Under-20 bronze medalist, 20 years of age. But so easy to panic, isn't it, in those situations when you see athletes maybe going out a little bit stronger, coming past you on the inside, as we saw through the run of Precious Malepo. But here, Van Niekerk was pretty steady through that first 200, 300, wasn't she? But here is where she suddenly turned on the afterburners. Pressure from both sides, but Van Niekerk, who, if she's rewarded with a full 1 second personal best, that is a huge performance. She has been busy this year with some races already, several in her native South Africa, which have saw her slowly improving on the flat and across the hurdles as well. And Van Niekerk, if that time is confirmed, will have a huge new entry for her CV.
Well, that's put the marker out there for the next race as well. The times are going to be compiled across the 2 events, and that's how they're going to decide the prize money today here in Botswana and the World Athletics ranking points. There's the unofficial result of the B final for the women's 400 metres. Hannah van Niekerk snatching it in the last 40 metres, 52.72, ahead of her teammate Precious Malepo, 53.22. And Golekane Shikane with a strong finish as well, 53.78 to pick up 3rd place. Good season's best for Shikane as she leads the athletes from Botswana there in front of the home crowd. And there is the A final just getting set into their blocks.
And this A final, just checking everybody is there. The full complement of 8 are out there. So this looks like the lineup that we're expecting. And this is a high quality lineup as well. As we can see, from the outside, we have Olympic finalist Candice McLeod, who's had a few problems last year. Bassant Hamida, national record holder of Ipswich, of Egypt, I should say. Ipswich, as far as I'm aware, don't have their own national record, but Egypt certainly do, off the back of the World Indoors as well. Miranda Kurtzea, Olympic semi-finalist, the African champion, goes in lane 6. Also got Courtney Okolo, vastly experienced former world indoor champion for USA as well. Multiple major relay medalist. Marley Viljoen of South Africa, the World University Games champion from the last edition. And Galafeli Morocco on the inside. There's Candice McLeod, 5th in the Olympic final in Tokyo. Twice a World Championship finalist as well in the last 2 editions. Missed a large chunk of last season, didn't make the Olympic Games, didn't run particularly well in the National Championships last year, which meant that she missed out on the opportunity even to compete in the relay. 3 of this field, by the way, are part of the South African national record 4x4 team from last month.
From Jamaica with the PB 49.51.
In lane 7,
Bassat
Hamida of Egypt, as I say, competed in the World Indoor Championships in Nanjing in China. She's competed
Republic of South Africa with the PB 51.42. Sheline Kubui.
Olympic semi-finalist from Paris, just outside the top 20 all-time in the African list in this event.
Lane 6, Miranda Charles Kotsie.
We're on to lane 5, visually anyway. Shirley Nekububi of South Africa, who's already in personal best form this year, 51.42, set in Johannesburg a couple of months ago. There's Rhoda Njobvu of Zambia, who set a 200-meter national record in this very stadium. Tokyo Olympian in the 100 and 200, up at the 400. Courtney Okolo in lane 3, a world indoor champion, as I say, a sub-50-second runner. Made the semis last year of the US Olympic trials, but no further. There's Marley Viljoen, the World University Games champion, off a PB this year of 51.42. And on the inside will be Galafeo Morocco with a 50.59 lifetime best. Switching from the hurdles late on into this flat. So Nekubui, Viljoen and Kutseya, the 3 South Africans in this, high-class athletes, as I say, part of that national record-setting South African 4x4 team from last month. So a lot of domestic South African rivalry at stake in this race as well. Candice McLeod on the outside in lane 8. What sort of form is she in? And the 2018 World Indoor Champion, Courtney Okolo, there in lane 3. Again, away first time. McLeod right on the outside again on the comeback trail. Hamida inside her, who ran a best of 52.17 in her indoor travels in Karlsruhe in Germany. And it's Hamida storming down the back straight at the moment. Nekubui in lane 5 is up on Miranda Kutseya outside her. But Hamida very strongly through the first 200 metres. McLeod's got plenty of work to do right on the outside. Also running well on the inside is Viljoen of South Africa in lane 2 as well. But Hamida, who committed herself through that first 200 now, the form starting to go slightly, and the challenge is coming from Nekubui inside her, and now Kutseya in the orange starting to challenge between the two. Hamida is holding it together though, and that is a really impressive front-running victory in the end for Hamida. She came into the home straight. It looked like it started to unravel for her, but 50.78 for Bassat Hamida. That is an absolutely outstanding time. I was not expecting anything like that, which is a huge personal best. We're seeing some massive personal bests here, Hannah. The last 2 races, we've seen personal bests of 1 and 1.5 seconds or so. Yeah, Hamida, well, she's certainly committed. That's the one thing we will say.
Well, I was thinking the meeting record for Mary Mora last year, 50.44, I was thinking that's not going to get challenged. And Bassat Hamida, she's really committed to this move to 400 metres. We're used to seeing her in the 100 and the 200. She holds those national records. I think indoors is maybe the first time she's run 400 properly for some 3 or 4 years. And she always looks like she goes off too fast and she's going to struggle in that last 50. But there's some real strength from Hamida there in the last 50 metres. She must have been doing some serious endurance work this winter because you can tell she's flooded with lactic. If we look here again at the last 100 metres, Bassat Hamida just running on fumes, running on willpower here in the last 50. And you would say, as she starts to lock up at this point, the Egyptian in lane 7, it's got to be there for the taking for the likes of Kutse and Nekubui in the lanes inside of her. But it's not. The Egyptian just finds something a little bit extra. And that's a fantastic new personal best for her.
Well, as you say, as you swung into the home straight, Hannah, I just thought she just committed too hard over 300 metres, but that is an impressive, very impressive way to hold it together. Staggering away to the line in the end, and if that time is confirmed at 50.77, that is an absolutely massive chunk of her personal best as well. Could say a finish well for 51.10 in second, and Shirley Nekabui of South Africa ran well for a long way, and she'll be rewarded with a new personal best by a couple of tenths of a second as well. Candice McLeod 53.78, so still obviously some work to do for the Jamaican in trying to get back to the kind of athlete that has a number of global medals and global finals.
Ladies and gentlemen, next event.
For a nation that appreciates the likes of Amantil Moncho, the 2011 world champion, they would have loved to have seen both of those 400-metre races, because they were super quick and very competitive as well. They're just all recovering there in VIP. Going there. All right, we like 400, we tolerate 400. But where's the ones and the twos for this nation that loves their sprinting? They're going to have to bear with us for a little bit. It's the men's 3,000-metre steeplechase up next, which I think is a great event, but perhaps not going to be as sort of familiar to this crowd. You know, and they have the likes of Monsil and Isaac Mkwala, and of course now Letsile Teboko, and they're getting there with the 800. They've got some great 800-metre men which are coming up in a few races' time, but this might be a bit of a spectacle for some of these fans here in Botswana, and maybe we'll inspire a few of the kids to kind of say, oh, you can do something a bit crazy in athletics. You can run around, jump around stuff and get wet all on the track.
We see the name of Gurma there on the graphic. We're going to see the name of Gurma, or certainly hear the name of Gurma a couple of times in this race as well, because there are a couple of Gurmas in this, but not related to Lemecha Gurma, even though he does have numerous family members. As
far as I can tell, Lemecha Gurma has 7 brothers, 2 of which run as well, but the likes of Gurma Demishlas and Negisa Gurma are no relation. So we're not unleashing any more Gurma brothers on the athletics world today, but we have got a nice field there of 10 or 11 athletes. I was hoping to see Wilberforce Kunez as well of Kenya on the second page. There he is. And Haile Mariam Amara of Ethiopia is the pacemaker, the designated pacemaker. He's a very accomplished athlete. He's got the fastest personal best by an absolute country mile in Mare. So very competent pacemaker. I wonder how far he could take the 11 races here in this race. So lots of athletes with personal bests sort of around about the 820s, low 820s. So they could be hoping for around about 245 or 250 per kilometre. It's been paced a little bit faster than that, so hopefully some athletes will go with it.
Of course, you mentioned earlier on about world ranking points, Hannah, World Athletics Championship standards as well up for grabs. We're not going to see those in this race, but certainly in terms of there'll be aims for a lot of people over the course of the next few months as the Continental Tour Gold and of course the Diamond League circuit winds up as well, gets going in May, and that's when we'll start to see some of these standards challenged. The men's steeplechase entry standard for Tokyo is 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Quite a lot of tough standards, but their aim is to get 50% of the athletes qualified through those standards, and the rest of them made up through the world rankings lists. So these are our athletes, many of whom are up and coming, many of whom have very little form in the book as well, Hannah. Quite a few of them in terms of their athletics career that's available, certainly online. Don't even have an age listed against them. We just have their name. So we could get some performances here that might be eye-catching and certainly will allow for some entries on their statistical CV going forward.
And that's the beauty of having an event like this in Africa. You're going to throw the doors open to a few athletes that maybe wouldn't be able to kind of get on the plane and go and compete in some of the other events we have on the global calendar. Certainly the Continental Tour Gold, it can be very competitive to get into these fields. But this time of year, having a meet on your doorstep or closer, more accessibly, a cheaper airfare, that sort of scenario is a real opportunity for a number of these men here in this steeplechase.
And a big global audience, of course, watching as well this Botswana Golden Grand Prix. Welcome wherever you are watching around the world in whatever time zone. The beauty, of course, of these global events is that with competitors far and wide, there'll be friends and family of many of the competitors watching on. So very welcome you are to Gaborone, and the temperature is in the mid to high 20s or so, which is why you can see a lot of those sunshade umbrellas up here in the National Stadium. Impressive stadium, which will, of course, host the World Athletics Relays next year. Gaborone in the last few weeks has been awarded the 2026 World Relays. We always see Botswana perform well at those championships, And you mentioned the 400-meter pedigree they have. Hannah, we'll see plenty of that a little bit later on in this program as well. And I'm sure in Guangzhou in China in the World Athletics Relays that are coming up in less than a month's time now as well for qualification places for Tokyo.
This place will be rocking it with the World Relays.
Absolutely.
The atmosphere that this crowd will bring to that. And we're seeing some of it already. Look, this is the back straight in the baking sunshine. And there's so many spectators here. We were due to have one sole European in this race, Niklas Buckholz of Germany. I can't see him. I haven't been able to see him through this warm-up. Whether he's hiding in the shade somewhere, I'm not sure. But I think it was, he did mention he's been training over in South Africa, and this was a bit of a kind of last-minute decision perhaps for Niklas Buckholz, but let's hope he has made the start line. There's the men's long jump competitors just having a chat about proceedings.
Can you spot which one's Marcus Dendy by any chance?
Just about.
With the famous bucket hat. Yes, the long jump will be getting underway. We'll bring you the best of the action from our field events a little bit later. The women's javelin, men's long jump, and the men's shot put as well. And right on cue.
Here we are. Have a look at how the shot put's getting on. We have got Leonardo Fabri, the meeting record holder from a couple of years ago, and the world leading athlete this year. He's due to be competed down there as well. We've seen some of those athletes warming up, but I think they've just been asked to have a bit of a delay here. That's Eric Mayfer of Germany. And you look ready to throw, and they've just said, not yet, not yet.
Yeah, that competition is due to be underway. We don't have any live results, unfortunately, so very difficult to bring you up to date with things that we're not seeing because we do not have any live results currently on the computer. So, yeah, those field events, unfortunately, we're not able to update you on beyond what we're seeing on the screen, unfortunately.
We have got a planned sort of whistle-stop tour of the top 3 in each of the field events. There goes the German. Looking to get his season underway. Looks a little bit frustrated. I think perhaps he was ready to throw. I asked him to go and wait a minute, but there he is.
So we have a sweepstake on how far that was? It's difficult, isn't it?
Oh, I'm going to call it, I think I want to say the German, he's been out over 20 metres for the first time this season. So let's call it 2040.
Yeah, it's more
generous.
We'll find out later. It's one of those difficult things where you haven't got the visual markers on the side or any sector lines or a computer with the results on. We're a little bit limited when it comes to those field events, unfortunately. But we'll do our best. Here's the long jump. Let's see what we can bring you here.
Seems to be a bit of delay with this men's steeplechase. My reckoning, Chris, is that they're trying to make sure they've got the barriers in exactly the right place. I think when you've got an officiating team that run steeplechases for breakfast, they know exactly where to put it. Whereas if it's something they're not totally familiar with, we're taking that time to make sure they've got the barriers in precisely the right place. You can see they're just double checking that barrier there, and the men being instructed to go and take a couple more strides. You probably want to send them out to put the barriers out. I always think it's always the athletes that spot any mistakes with the equipment.
And we should mention, for those, we may have many more viewers in Africa than we might normally have on some of the meetings held in Europe, possibly. But we should explain, Hannah, your connection to steeplechasing and why you're such a big fan of it, because you're married to a steeplechaser.
My husband was an international steeplechaser, so I do. It's much easier to watch now when you've not got a close personal connection. Because I tell you what, if you are a friend or family of anyone running in this race, the anxiety, as they approach each of these barriers, which they're not like hurdles.
No.
High hurdles in the 100 metres, the 400, they fall over. You fall over if you hit one of these.
Yeah, I can imagine Hannah as a wife or a girlfriend back in the career maybe of Luke, who we should mention. Maybe he's watching. Hello, Luke, if you're watching. Luke Gunn, a British steeplechaser, knows what these athletes will be going through. And as you say, many of these at the earlier end of their career. We've got a variety of 19, 20, 21-year-olds here who, once again, with the pressure of senior competition, and of course higher barriers when you get to the senior stage as well. We haven't seen the position of the water jumper as yet, Hannah.
Yeah, when we were looking out over on the wide shot of the arena, it did look like it should be on the inside, an inside water jump, so slightly shorter laps. I think the athlete's still warming up here in the men's long jump. as we take a look at the shot put. That's perhaps Kyle Bligno of South Africa. Apologies, it was whizzing so fast through the circle there. Hard to catch his bib number. 165, it was Bligno of South Africa, the former world junior champion. He's just had to watch his teammate throw further than him. Career best Aidan Smith is now number 2 all time in South Africa. He's there, he'll be wearing 164, but the athletes here in the men's steeplechase just taking a moment to relax, gather their thoughts. So a lot of experience for these athletes. They should have been racing 9 or 10 minutes ago. Just shaking the legs out here. That is Halimariam Amara of Ethiopia, the pacemaker. As Zane Weir comes up for a throw. Not sure what stage in the competition they are in this men's shot put, but Zane Weir, welcome return from injury during the indoor season. I'm sure he would have loved more. He was 8th at the Europeans, 8th at the Worlds, but there was a measure of consistency across his indoor season. 5 competitions over 21 metres. The Italian very much back following that ankle sprain that ruined his outdoor season. So it's been great to see him back, but I'm sure 8th place is not where he wants to be in those major championships.
Once again, it's good to have some of the international talent we've got in the long jump field as well, like the likes of the character that is Marcus Dendy in his bucket hats. As our 3,000 metre steeplechasers finally get underway. We've got Christian Pulli of Finland in that men's long jump as well, and Marko Ceko of Croatia, the European interest, along with a couple from South Africa, Lincoln Temba Hani and Jovan van Vuren, Kutsea of Namibia, and also Motom of Botswana and Mopeng of Botswana as well in that men's long jump field, which were, as you say, Hannah, just going through some final preparations before they get underway. Talking of final preparations,
we have got all 12 starters here for the men's 3,000 metres. Buckles must have been seeking some shade somewhere because he has made the start line. But full lineup: Gelebeli of Botswana on the inside, Matt Lepeng of Botswana in 2, Unse also of Botswana in 3, Kimeli of Kenya will wear hip number 4, Fikadu of Ethiopia hip 5, Germa, another Germa from Ethiopia, not Lemetra Germa, will have hip number 6. Toroitich of Uganda will have hip number 7, and Berahan Moges of Ethiopia 8. Germa, Nagisa Germa will have leg number 9, Niklas Buchholz of Germany leg number 10, and Wilberforce Kones of Kenya, number 11 there on the outside. Next to the pacemaker, Halimariam Amara, who's been asked to take them through in 2:42. Which will be quick, as we're just going to get introduced to male long jumpers as well.
So here are those male long jumpers. I was just frantically writing down some race numbers for the steeplechase, Hannah, because they haven't got any hip numbers on. And we don't have a list of the numbers, and they haven't got names on. So if we don't get them at the start, we don't have any live results. So I was frantically there writing down the bib numbers of those athletes in the 3,000 metre steeplechase to be able to hopefully match everything up. They seem to be lined up in the right positions, at least in the draw, and we're underway in the men's steeple.
There they are in the men's steeplechase, and they have moved Halimariam Amare of Ethiopia 138 there. That is the pacemaker. And his personal best 8:06 set back in 2022. I mentioned in the build-up to this event, it's easily the fastest in the whole race. Multiple African Championship medals, including a double gold in 2022 in the 5,000 and the steeplechase. So Amare, I'm unsure where he is in his season. He's not opened up. He's not done any races in 2025. So as I say, he's just here for a bit of pacemaking. He's not even in the lead at the moment. That's one of the athletes from Botswana, Unse, just pushing his way to the front, feeling that it's not quite quick enough. But Amara is full of experience. You've got to say if Amara knows what he's doing. But perhaps Halimariam Amara is actually racing, which would be great to see. Oh, bit of a stumble there over the barrier, I think, from one of the Ethiopian athletes, but he'll get himself attached to the back of this group, no problem. So they're going to attack the water jump for the first time here. So that's one of the few laps they'll run all the way around, if you like. And they're going around about 69, 68 seconds or so. So not lightning quick for these men, and that could perhaps be why we've seen Lopang Unse go into the lead already. He's got a personal best of 9:09, perhaps viewing this as a real opportunity to get under 9 minutes. We've lost the same gentleman, I think, who nearly fell around about 150 metres away. He struggled there. And that's Nagisa Girma of Ethiopia. We haven't got any time down for him for this event, so perhaps a debut in the steeplechase, and it's a bit of a baptism of fire at the moment for the Ethiopian. Lots of changes at the front of the field here. Next up to take the running, it's Berhan Moges of Ethiopia. Clock has stopped here at 1:43. I think that will be their time when they came through the line. So at the moment, not quite sure what time these men are running, but it wasn't particularly quick through the first lap and a half or so. So I think this could turn into more of a tactical race, more of a battle for those world ranking points. And, necessarily a super quick time. So there we go, brilliant. We have got the clock back on track, but now running around about 70 seconds per lap. It's going around about 8:45 pace, which could be personal best for some of these athletes if they can stay involved. A bit of a stutter here into the water jump. Here's still Berhan Moges of Ethiopia leading the way. Halimariam Amare in second. And Lopang Untse of Botswana going wide there in third. So much changing there in the middle of the pack. So I think what you can see is interesting in a steeplechase. As they go towards the barrier, athletes are slowing down. They cut up the athletes around them. They swing wide to get a better look at the barrier, because there's no stride pattern like you would in the sprint hurdles, and it just causes chaos. You think you've moved wide enough to give yourself a sight at the barrier, but then the man in front of you moves as well, and it's just this concertina effect across the track, and just a little bit of chaos. And that is the beauty of steeplechase. So they all look into their running now. I think the danger sort of passed once everyone's settled into their position in the pack.
So still Berhan Moges of Ethiopia, the 20-year-old. As we said, we've only got PBs for a handful of these athletes. The most impressive of them, as you've been talking about, is Halimariam Amare with his 8:06 from the Rabat, from a meeting in Rabat in 2022. A number of other athletes in the 8:20s, including Wilberforce Kone, number 139. I'm just trying to spot in that main group a little bit further back at the moment. Also with athletes in the 8:20s, Milkesa Fikadu of Ethiopia, who's wearing 146. We're just losing, one athlete certainly losing touch at the back there. And Nicholas Buchholz, I should say, of Germany, just settled towards the back of that main pack at the moment.
So Berhan Moges of Ethiopia still happy to lead at the moment, the 4th place finisher from the World Junior Championships. That's where his personal best of 8:25 is from last year from Lima, and he's just being kind of relegated down the pack as well, and they've all clattered over that hurdle. 1:45. Demelash Girma of Ethiopia caused a bit of chaos there coming round the field. Everyone trying to respond. And the youngster, Berhan Moges, has done well there to stay on his feet and stay involved in the pack. And Halimariam Amare, for me, is running a very, very quiet race. He's got so much experience. He's relaxed in the middle of the pack, whereas other athletes might be rattled by being surrounded by so many bodies. There's another faller there. I think perhaps that's the same guy we've seen tumble a couple of times in the water jump. And I think there at the back, I think was perhaps Nagisa Girma, 142. So this pack of 7 athletes or so just starting to spread out, just starting to separate themselves from the rest of the field. Wilberforce Kone of Kenya has had a quiet race so far, but him and Amare look like they're just trying to separate themselves from the chaos and try and give themselves some clean running as they go through around about 5.5 minutes. So they could have 3 laps left to go here in the men's 3,000 metre steeplechase.
So just looking at that main pack, as you say, you've got Kona's in there, you've got Amare, you've got Moges of Ethiopia, Demelash Girma is in there in the blue colours, right in the centre, that blue Nike kit as well. 147 on the inside, that's Amos Kameli in the black and red Asics colours, 147. Nicholas Buchholz of Germany on the inside wearing 141 and 143. That's Moges in the on colours, just losing a bit of touch there as that lift in tempo is orchestrated by Amare into the water jump. 146 in the light green, that's Fikadu of Ethiopia in second position at the moment over that barrier.
Milkesa Fikadu has had a quiet race so far. He was 5th at the All-African Games last year. He's just 20 years old, personal best of 8:21. He seems to have responded to Halimariam Amare at the moment. And it's still Demelash Girma as well, 145, keeping himself involved in 139. Wilberforce Kone. And great to see Niklas Buchholz, he said he didn't know how this race was going to go. He hasn't touched a tartan track in weeks. He's been training on the dirt roads in Dulstrom in South Africa. I was kind of thinking, can you remember how to run on a tartan track? And the German looking pretty comfortable at the moment. As we're just getting to the business end of this men's 3,000 metre steeplechase. A lap and a half to go for these athletes. Milkesa Fikadu trying to ask questions of Halimariam and Mara. Ethiopia love their steeplechase. They've got the world record, of course, with Nemecha Germa, but they haven't had any global golds for a long, long time. Soufiane El Bakkali has been winning lots of titles. And the Kenyan men have been so strong in this event as well, and they're still kind of searching for someone that can take the global title. Nemecha Germa with that horrible fall in Paris as well. Let's hope he's back to full health. But these three athletes just separated themselves. They're going to take the bell this time. Milkesa Fikadu just trying to keep himself ahead of Halimariam Amare, who hasn't stepped off the curve if he's had any opportunity to stay there. Amare is trying to run the very shortest distance here. Halimariam Amare way faster than anyone else, some 15 seconds or so faster on personal bests. But this is his first race in a while, first race of the outdoor season. A sneaky move there from Demelash Germa, 1:45. And the Nike kit on the inside, trying to follow the example of Amare and take the shortest line. But Halimariam Amare, he's looked exhausted for around about 100 metres. Surely Halimariam Amare is going to come unstuck here on the technical water jump, but he doesn't. He flies out of it. Halimariam Amare, he waves at the crowd. He's still got another barrier to get over, but he's asking for their support. And a great run from Milkesa Fikadu. He's trying to hold on to second place. But Milkesa Fikadu sprinting hard. He's not going to be able to get back on terms with Halimariam Amare. Amare, arms flailing, legs flailing, but he's done enough to take the win here. He's going to dip underneath 8:30 ahead of Milkesa Fikadu. And a good finish there in 6th place from Demelash Germa.
Have you ever seen somebody punch the air in celebration as they exit the water jump? That was incredible.
There was a
confidence.
French guy that did the age group championships when I was an athlete who did that.
Wow. I mean, that is some... I mean,
I can't remember his name now.
If someone was 200 metres clear, you could understand it. But he had about 2 metres. Amara, well, he judged it well in the end, didn't he? And he looked all out from a long way out in that back straight. But the others, maybe he knew what shape they were in, and they didn't quite have enough to respond to him. But the one of the most experienced athletes in the field, certainly the one with the best on paper, the best form on paper, with that 8:06 lifetime best, a 2-time African champion over various distances, and that's class in the end, coming through with a bit of a celebratory arrogance coming down the home straight as well. I mean, it's another thing doing it when you still got a barrier to clear, as you quite rightly said, because that would have really unravelled. But we see a bit of showmanship sometimes in the 3,000, don't we, from some of the leading contenders. I think of Mr. El Bakkali, loves a show, but not quite to that extent.
Well, I mean, I wonder if Halimariam Amare, he must have come here wanting to take a win, wanting to put in a good performance. He was 9th at the World Cross Country a couple of years ago in Australia, and I think he struggled to kind of find that form on the international stage for a few years. And you know, to 8:28, that's not anywhere near his lifetime best of 8:06, but just to have that feeling of winning and executing his tactics really well as well, because it was a tricky race. It was very busy, it was very congested. But Amare, he did a really good job at staying out of trouble, but staying in contact with the race throughout.
Well, the biggest credit of the race, beyond the winner, surely goes to the athlete who fell over 3 times and still finished the race. Demelash Germa, wasn't it? One of the athletes who was really struggling throughout the course of the race. And Negesa Germa was the one who fell over early on twice, and then again later in the race, but still came through to finish. But Amare taking the celebrations and quite rightly distributing some of the flowers as well to his well-wishers.
Yeah, well, that's a nice touch. You usually see the whole bunch getting thrown out, but Amare just taking the time to sign some autographs as well. I mentioned sort of the number of children we've seen in the crowd already. And honestly, I think if anything's going to land with you, if you're not quite sold on athletics and you watch a steeplechase, you think, hang on a minute, there is literally something for everyone here.
There certainly is. And we move now to the sprint straight again. Those steeplechase barriers have been quickly removed. Let's hope, at least for the sake of the women's 100-metre athletes. So we've got a couple of vacant lanes there, Hannah, for this certainly this B final that is due to be coming up.
So there is a look at the B women's 100 metres. Again, the two races will happen and then we'll combine the times, and we'll just have to wait until we have a look at the start line perhaps to see who's made it all the way to the start line. There's a few athletes comfortably under 12 seconds this season already, and they'll look to be confirming that here. That was Morangi Refilwe. Galetsang Gabalotlegwe isn't there, so empty lane 2, empty lane 3 takes us to Chipang Manika of Botswana in 4. Sethunya Mayama is there in lane 5, and Irene Bonong in lane 6. Same Muhutsiwa in 7, and Erin Koff out in lane 8. And the athletes away here in this B final. Lonely run for Refilwe of Botswana in lane 1, but she's doing well at the moment. Refilwe trying to run away with this, trying to snatch it from lane 1, and she does. What a wonderful run from Refilwe. 3 members of the national record holding squad here from the Botswana 4x1. And Morangi Refilwe doing a Usain Bolt, if you like. See if she can just keep going and keep running down the back straight. And it was a long wait for these athletes. That 3,000-metre steeplechase was some 10 minutes delayed. That's why they got off so quickly. Got them in their blocks as soon as possible. Morangi Refilwe kind of weathered the storm, the very best out of these athletes. She is one of the fastest in the field, 11:73, new lifetime best set this year. But she looked a class apart from that field, and that unofficial time there, 11:56, that would be a personal best by 0.2. And that will be the time to chase for the other athletes as we look towards the A final.
Yep, certainly will. As you said, a lonely run for Refilwe, but that didn't affect her on the inside at all from the difficult lane 1. It was difficult, of course, in straight sprints, as it can be in others, albeit lacking for a bit of company sometimes and being out on your own, but almost finished in order, didn't they, from the inside to the outside. With that performance from Refilwe, part of the national record. In fact, she is the national record holder over 4x1 in the part of the team, wearing the Botswana team colours as well, which is, I'm sure, one of the reasons why the home crowd latched on to her as well. I'm sure the announcer in the arena was drawing the attention to the fact she was a home favourite as well, but I think it always helps when you're wearing your national team colours, isn't it? And there is confirmation of that win for Refilwe and that new personal best.
Certainly does. There is Refilwe for Botswana. The fastest time so far in the women's 100. Still one race to go, though. 11:54, a new lifetime best. And a good run for Manika as well, 11:73. And Sethunya Mayama making it a 1-2-3 for Botswana. Let's see if we can get the audio here on the interview with the winner, Morangi Refilwe.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Unfortunately, we don't seem to have the audio coming through on these interviews.
Harder to know what she's saying compared to what Dalilah Mohammed said earlier on, because we heard a bit of Dalilah Mohammed and what her thoughts were for the year, but not so sure on that one, unfortunately.
I think Refilwe is saying, there's your target for race 2. Come and catch me if you can. 11:54, the target. The meeting record here, Tanisha Terry, 11:05 a couple of years ago. You see the world lead there with Sabrina Dockery, one of the US-based athletes, 11:08.
Where do you stand on what time of the calendar year, Hannah, you can talk about world leads? Because obviously for the athletes in America, Jamaica, Africa, of course, the world leading performances, the better performances mean more at this stage of the year. But for those in the cooler climes of Europe and beyond, the world lead at the minute probably doesn't quite mean as much.
Here in Europe, we say, well, you still got to have your, it's still icy. Maybe not this week. We're having a good week in Europe. But for the African athletes and the Oceanic athletes, it's very relevant. Having their national championships. They're well into the outdoor season. And, Hannah Hope Vermaak of South Africa, the 17-year-old, goes in lane 1. Christine Mboma of Namibia goes in lane 2. Back competing at international level, eligible to compete, the silver medalist from Tokyo at the age of 17. This is her first season back competing in a few years. There's Sone Sebile of Botswana in lane 3. Biwe Jinkwi of South Africa goes in lane 4. She was 5th at the World Junior Championships in Lima last summer. There's Rhonda Nyovu back from her run in the 400 metres. She is the national record holder for Zambia over 200. So she's dabbling either side of that. Already done the 400 and now time for the 100. Victoria Forster of Slovakia will take lane 6. World University Games champion in the 100 hurdles. She's very good on the flat as well. There's Bichrit Masalingi of Namibia, a teammate of Mboma, and 6th place in Tokyo for Masalingi. Again, at the age of 17, These two athletes still so young, both now just 21 and 22. There's Yovile Mbisha of South Africa in lane 8. Good form so far, personal best in March and within a 10th of a 200-metre personal best too. So Mbisha definitely thinks it's the outdoor season. She's ready for it. But you're right, Chris, it's a long old season as these athletes look to build form towards Tokyo. Look at the likes of Victoria Forster. If she wants to double in Tokyo, she might have to rely on a world ranking position in the 100. She would probably hit the qualifying time in the 100 hurdles, perhaps a better event. But if she wants to double, very important to pick up world ranking points at any opportunity. Perhaps why the Slovakian has come all the way here to Botswana. But they're away in this first heat. Fast running in the middle of the field, perhaps from Njovu. No, she's just fading ever so slightly. It's Viwe Jinkwi of South Africa. Victoria Forster trying to finish quickly, and the 17-year-old Vermeek of South Africa in lane 1 as well. We've already seen a 17-year-old take a win in the men's 400 metres hurdles. Yabulu Mbata of South Africa. Could we have another teenage South African winner? She looks in shock here, Vermeek. She hit a new personal best recently of 11:58 at the South African Junior Championship. She's just starting to believe she maybe might have managed that. Viwe Jinkwi was close as well, Victoria Forster, so we'll have to just wait. Perhaps in the replay, we'll get another look at how that top 3 unfolded.
It looked to favour the inside on the line, didn't it? Certainly in terms of Victoria Forster. There was certainly a start that was worth a second look, I think, from in lane 2 from Christina Mboma. But have a look on the inside here. 3 very close in a line, right on the inside. And well, it's hard to tell, isn't it? Because we're not quite in line with the finish line. But that is the young gentleman who makes the decisions. And he... No, hang on. The results board there has got somebody else at the top. So she's saying, hang on a minute. The board says that you've won. So the little lad with the flowers is in a total spin.
He's lost his job. He won't be back next year. Hasn't passed his officiating course, I'm afraid. So Jinkwi of South Africa saying, I'm not sure it was me. Here's the unofficial results of that second race. 11:44 for Hannah Hope Vermeek. And you can see the confusion because Viwe Jinkwi was given the same time, 11:44 for both of them. And Victoria Forster just 100th behind, 11:45. So that would be a new lifetime best for Vermeek. And not quite for Jinkwi or Victoria Forster, but the youngster, the 17-year-old, delivering under pressure. Perhaps the advantage there, having lane 1, she was probably a bit more relaxed. She was just executing her race instead of getting caught up with the tension. She probably didn't, what we saw across the finish line. She had no idea she was winning.
And Christina Mboma, I mean, completely full started in lane 2 as well, which could also, I mean, that wasn't even close, was it? So in terms of, sometimes that can throw you off, can't it? In the early stage, you're right next to somebody who clearly looks like they've gone ahead of the gun. No recall on that occasion. I think there would have been a few interesting questions if Christina Mboma had gone on to win. But as you mentioned, Hannah, returning from her absence, been working hard on training and taking steps back towards the top level as we see our men's line up for the men's 100 metres. This is final number 2. And all 7 lanes that we were expecting are ready to go from the inside. Lee of Botswana, Kariem of South Africa, Oleo of Nigeria, Motibi of Botswana. What's happening here? I mean, they all lined up there for what looked like a start, and then they didn't go. And now here is the lineup. It's got 8 athletes on that lineup, but we certainly didn't have 8 in that line. So Wiseman Makobi, who ran earlier in the hurdles, it may be that he's not going to double up. This would have been only his 5th ever 100 metres, the Olympic semi-finalist over the hurdles. So when we get back to the start line, we will have a look. Here we go. So Makobi's not there. That was an attempt at a start. The green card. So Lee of Botswana on the far side. Kariem of South Africa is in 2, although they look to be possibly the other way round. In 4 is Oleo of Nigeria. 5, Motibi of Botswana. In 6 is Letebele of South Africa. And in 7 is Mayana of Botswana. As we wait for the men's 100 metres. So, this men's 100 metres. Got to say, we have a completely different list of athletes here, so we'll have to watch the performances. In lane 3. Oh, goodness me. 10.09. You mentioned about the wind earlier, Hannah. We'll wait and see. We're not getting any wind readings, but 10.09. Again, if that is confirmed, that is an outstanding performance from Abdurrahman Kariem of South Africa. In lane 3, who has a lifetime best of 10.22. So again, if that time is confirmed, that is another absolutely massive personal best for Abdurrahman Kariem from lane number 3. No doubt about the flowers this time around. And that was an outstanding performance from the athlete from South Africa, who's had 2 runs in the 10.3s so far this season. Pretty level up to this point, but this is where his race got going, Hannah.
A great, well-executed run from the South African there. He really looked up for it today. And he looked delighted with the time. You can see both hands held aloft. Remember, the South Africans, they've been competing a lot in the last couple of months. They probably already had their national championships. But I wonder whether Karim thought he was going to run 10.0 today. That's super exciting when we consider the athletes we've got coming up in the next race. But daylight between the South African and the rest of the field. So he really has opened up a gap over the athletes at Fola Ole and Justice Oratil either side of him. And they were high-quality athletes as well. So Karim will be getting back on the plane. Or perhaps you can drive. You can actually drive to South Africa. It's not too bad to drive from Gaborone back to South Africa, depending on where you're based.
A name worth mentioning for the future in there, by the way, is Karabo Letebele, who was the one who was dipping quite strongly towards the line, towards the outside, who's got a best of 10.18 set. A number of fast times at altitude this year, but he was behind Walatsa, the world leader, the only athlete to run under 10 seconds already this year of South Africa at the National Under-20 Championships. So Letebele, another one of those outstanding up-and-coming young South African sprinters. That was the B final of the men's 100 metres. Moving on to the A final now, where we should have, hopefully, the battle of Africa's 2 fastest men, Akani Simbini and Ferdinand Omanyala. So there we go, the lineup for the men's 100 metres final. Vastly experienced lineup, this one. Many athletes who have been multiple major championships. We've got to mention Emmanuel Esseme as well, the African Championship silver medalist. There's Marc Otieno on the inside. Kobe Vlemings of Belgium, national silver medalist, goes in lane 2. He's due to run the 200 metres as well, as is Taekwondo Tracy of Jamaica. He's due to double up as well. He ran into a nearly -3 metre headwind earlier on this year. Emmanuel Esseme doesn't seem to be there, but here's Ferdinand Omanyala, the African record holder, number 9 all-time, for his 9.77. It goes back to 2021 in Nairobi. Omanyala is in 5, and Akani Simbini, fresh off his first ever global medal in the World Indoor Championships in China. So often a 4th and 5th place finisher at major championships. He goes in 6. This is Rechisitwe Malenga of South Africa, who's got a best of 10.04. He's in 10.13 form already this year. And the World University Games champion over 200 metres, Sabo Matsoso of South Africa. Well, only Kishane Thompson of Jamaica was faster last year than Ferdinand Omanyala. These athletes, from the numbers we're seeing, running into a slight headwind. But what a battle this is between Africa's 2 fastest men. Omanyala's run 9.77, Simbini's run 9.82. There's a lad called Tobogo who might be trying to get himself into that into those numbers as well. He's currently 4th fastest with 9.86 in what is not his specialist event. But it's Omanyala in 5, Simbini in 6. And away they go. Simbini got a slightly better start, also going well on Taekwondo Tracy. But now, side by side, Africa's 2 fastest men, and it is Akani Simbini who takes the honours ahead of Omanyala. 9.92 unofficially. Simbini translates his global medal-winning form indoors straight to the outdoors and goes top of the world list for 2025. Only the 2nd man to break 10 this year.
What a treat to see Ferdinand Omanyala and Akani Simbine side by side. That Simbine did get a good start. And I wonder, you referenced it, Chris, finally getting on a global podium. And Simbine looked delighted in Nanjing, and perhaps that's going to be a weight off his shoulders. And we're going to see a whole new level from the South African this year. And that's an important win to take over Omanyala. Omanyala is usually very, very good this time of year. We've got the Kipkino Classic coming up in a few weeks' time. I think he'll perhaps be saving something back for that. But Ferdinand Omanyala, he loves to say for that event in Nairobi, you know, everyone come here and race me. And I better be asking Akine Simbine for a rematch, because Omanyala, he stuck to his task really well, the Kenyan, just to the left-hand side of Simbine. But look at that last 10, 15 metres from Akane Simbine. And sometimes you can say if someone's good over 60, what's going to happen in that last 40? And the South African has answered any questions about whether he's got the speed endurance to go the full distance today.
And of course, for a lot of the African athletes, the indoors is largely not a phenomenon, is it? Because they don't run indoors very often, because while the indoor season is happening around the world, often they're utilising the best outdoor conditions in their home countries. 9:90 that time has been corrected to for Akane Simbine, world lead, fastest time in the world this year. And that means that at the moment it's two South Africans top of the list, because he's just deposed Bayanda Walatsa, the world under-20 champion, who ran 9:99 a couple of weeks ago. But Simbine taking the honours. Omanyala has run well for 10 seconds flat. And Reshisi Sitswe of South Africa in third position. What a confidence boost for Simbine, as you say, going forward.
Well, Kareem from the first heat, 10.08, he'll actually slot himself right up that leaderboard. When you look at, as I mentioned before, the prize money, the world ranking points, put himself right in the conversation there. So we've got the men's long jump going on. This is Kulwano Monti of Botswana. Just asking for a bit of crowd support, just 19 years old. Doesn't look overawed by the occasion too much. Set his lifetime best, 7:21 here in February. You can see the kind of ribbon there on the right-hand side of the screen, just showing a slight headwind, just 1 metre per second, so not too bad for these athletes, but not ideal in the long jump as such. But Monty looking fine there, looking like he's got a valid effort in.
You mentioned that wind, Hannah. If it's come up and the official results, anyway, that I'm seeing for the men's 100, that Simbine just run 9:90 into a minus 1.4 headwind. So that adds a bit of extra credence to that time of 9:90. Makes it even more eye-catching. So the long jumpers obviously in that home straight running in the same direction. As we move onto the full circle of the track with the men's 400 metres. And this is final number 1. And in this lineup, we've got Christian Iguasel of Belgium, one of the successful members of Belgium's European relay bronze medal winning team, with the likes of Sakura and Dylan Borley and Alexander Dome. Interesting to see Christian Iguasel competing here. He's in lane number 6, the tall figure with the green. On the outside, Majama of Botswana. Lengo of Austria is in 7. Iguasel of Belgium in 6. Lindekool of South Africa is in 5. Van Wyk of Botswana is in 4. Oosthuizen of South Africa in 3. Mishak of Botswana in 2. And Kwenani of Botswana is in lane 1. So Christian Iguasel, as I mentioned, world indoor champion in the relay, European champion outdoors in the relay as well. First time competing outside Europe for him, as we see on the inside. Oh, sorry, on the outside, that's Fenyo Majama of Botswana, wearing number 107. .239 is Samuel Lengawa of Austria, their national indoor champion in one of the relay events. This is his outdoor season opener, so we'll see where he's at. A number of the European athletes, of course, in this will be potentially on training camps in the Africa region. Lots, of course, in Potchefstroom, some in Dullstroom as well, and various places of altitude. As we see Ruan Oosthuizen of South Africa, he's in 3. 106 is Tumo Van Wyk of Botswana. who goes in 4. And some of these athletes not on the start list that we were given, so therefore information a little bit short on some of those who we're seeing for the first time as they line up for this race. So we've seen conditions conducive to fast times so far. If you weren't with us at the start, the temperature's around about 26, 27 degrees Celsius, which is why you can see a lot of umbrellas and sunshade. Seems relatively still as we look around the arena, but that minus 1.7 headwind coming up for that brilliant 100 metres men's battle between Simbine and Omanyala. So our men's 400 metres B race will be followed by our men's 400 metres A race, which will have plenty of Botswanan interest. By Apo and Dory, Leongo Scotch are due to go in that men's 400 metres A race.
Back with the men's long jump. We haven't got any live results to bring you up to date with these athletes, but still great to have a quick look at how they're getting on. A quick look at how they're jumping. There's good high quality field events going on. We will be hopefully bringing you up to date with those results just towards the end of the programme. Still got around about another 40 minutes or so here to go in Botswana. We did have the 10-minute delay for that men's steeplechase, so the officials really up against it here in Botswana to try and get everything running back on time. And they're not too far off, if we're honest. This race is due off around about now, so pulled some wizardry there, the officials, to make sure we can get back on schedule.
Yeah, we do have wall-to-wall track action. That's why we haven't had too much lead time into some of those 100 metres. It's pretty much been get your, well, certainly what we're seeing anyway, and the athletes behind the scenes will be getting their blocks ready. There's Fenyo Majama of Botswana, who goes in 8. Samuel Lengauer of Austria, as I mentioned, he's been in action in the indoor season. This is his outdoor opener. He's a 47.5 man at his best. Christian Iguasel of Belgium, again running indoors in Europe, but now taking the opportunity to make his competitive debut outside Europe. Cora Lindekula of South Africa, he goes in 5. Then it will be Tumo van Wyk in the orange for Botswana. Ruben Oosthuizen of South Africa is in 3. And then on the inside, the 2 athletes, or 2 more athletes, I should say, carrying home hopes. Clifton Mishak. And finally, Lorona Kwenane on the inside for Botswana. Lindekula in the centre should have a bit of strength. He's a hurdler, normally, lane 5. So expect him to be holding on strong towards the end. But certainly what we've seen from these athletes, Christian Iguasel of Belgium would be the outstanding performer in terms of CV as part of that successful Belgium relay squad at multiple major championships, including outdoors in the European Championships in Rome last year and last year's World Indoor Championships in Glasgow. Iguasel is in lane 6 as we get underway. The first time of asking. Away quickly, right on the outside, is Majama of Botswana, and also in the orange is Van Wyk. So the Botswanan athletes so far, or Motswanan I should say to be specifically correct, Van Wyk in the orange, right on the outside, Majama. And now Iguasel will try and get himself into his running, and Lengauer of Austria as well, but Iguasel chasing down now. Van Wyk in the orange has the advantage as the stagger unwinds in his favour. Iguasel outside him. The tall Belgian looking to come strong in the latter stages. Majama starting to fade, but it's Van Wyk and Iguasel. Here comes the charge from the Belgium, and it's going to be enough to get him there on the line. Iguasel takes it from Van Wyk. Majama ran a good race right on the outside for Botswana as well. That's your 1, 2, 3 and 45.69. Christian Iguasel with a lifetime best performance, if that is confirmed as the winning time. Came into this with the credentials and proved it right.
Iguasel, wonderful, wonderful pacemaking there in that race. Similar to what we saw from, who was it in the, Bassat Hamida in the A race in the women's 400 metres. And then Hannah van Niekerk as well. If you remember the youngster in the first heat, she came through at the last minute as well. So the athletes doing some real damage in the last 50 metres. And I think that ability to pace the race, that's something you generally get with age and with experience in the race. And Christian Igosal, he certainly has that experience from all those relay runs with Belgium. And the emotion as well from Igosal just as he came over the line. He was full focus here at this point as he was battling with Van Wyk all the way down the home straight. Igosal, he didn't let himself kind of believe he'd won until he got the job done, got himself all the way across the line. But it would have been a long old trip for the Belgian to come here. And that's important. And we keep mentioning, of course, those World Championships in Tokyo and the world ranking points. And Igosal, he does have a shot potentially at hitting the qualifying standard in this event as the season progresses. But you're giving yourself sort of a backup of kind of going, even if I don't manage to chase down that time, if something happens with illness and injury, I've picked up a load of world ranking points today in Botswana.
Well, it's coming up as a national record for Belgium of 45.66. And knowing some of the pedigrees they have in the Belgian ranks, that would be one that I think we'd want to check, but I don't think that is correct. That will be a national record for Christian Igosal. It's considerably faster than that. So not even within a second of the national record in terms of what we have on paper here. But Igosal, nonetheless, an impressive winner. And as you say, Hannah, also that motivation, I guess, when you've been part of a major championships in a relay, you're an individual runner. Everyone's an individual runner first and foremost, aren't they? You're getting a taste of it as a relay. That motivation to say, can I get here as an individual athlete? Can I be here for Christian Igosal rather than for Belgium?
Well, and that momentum that different nations can build, so cut their teeth in the relay and then become phenomenal athletes off the back of that almost. And this is Tebogo Moipeng of Botswana, who is jumping first in the order. I'm not sure what round they are here, but we've seen a lot of these athletes. They could be sort of round 5 or so here. There were meant to be 9 starters. I'm not unsure whether they would have slimmed it down just to 8 as we went to the second half. But Moipeng of Botswana, best of 7:49 set about a month ago. He's not going to trouble it with that jump, unfortunately. But Moipeng, yeah, things weren't quite right for the athlete there on the runway.
Just to add, by the way, that news coming through from the officials is that Christine Mboma will be disqualified for that full start a little bit earlier on. So I think not a big surprise, that one, that retrospectively she will be disqualified for that full start. Again, not quite sure if we're going to get the information, so we'll give it to you while we've got it, and that is the result of the men's shot put. Zane Weir, 20 metres 83. Leonardo Fabry, 20.64, and Kyle Blignort, 20.32 in as the top 3 as the overall result. So some impressive 20-plus metre throws there after long travels for Weir and Fabry, the 2 favourites on paper, finishing top of the standings in that men's shot put.
That's an important win for Zane Weir. I think any time you get to beat the national record holder from your nation, the one with more achievements next to their name, I think that'd be welcome for Zane Weir to get a victory over Leonardo Fabry.
So we're standing by for the men's 400 metres. This is our A race. And this really does have some big, particularly Botswanan interest, but also African interest generally. Some huge players in the Africa 400 metres stakes are lining up in this one. All 8 lanes in action. Bayapo and Dory and Leongo Scott just having a little chat there, the 2 athletes in orange in adjacent lanes 4 and 5. It will be Haran Adoli of Uganda on the inside. Mazan Al Yessen of Saudi Arabia in 2. Lee Epi of Botswana in 3. Scotch in 4 and Dory in 5. Lythe Pillay of South Africa in 6, former World Under-20 champion. Zakiti Nene in 7. I think we are going to meet the athletes in this one from the outside. That's Chidi Okezi making his outdoor debut. A sub-45 performance from him last year for the Nigerian Olympian in Paris. Zakiti Nene of South Africa, also an Olympic semi-finalist, sub-45 second performer from a couple of years back. Olympian in the relay. There's Lythe Pillay of South Africa, part of the 5th place South Africa team that finished in the relay final. Olympic semi-finalist as well himself in individual matters. There's Bayapo Ndori, number 7 in the world last year, 44.1 is best. A great victory over Letsile Tebogo in the first Continental Tour gold meeting when Tebogo was having a go at 400 metres. Great battle to the line. There's Leongo Scotch, who finished third in that race. It was a Botswana 1-2-3 in Melbourne in the Maury Plant meeting. As we see Lee Epi, one of the US-based Botswana athletes, already in personal best form this year. The athlete from Mississippi State, 45.2. There's Mazan Al Yassin of Saudi Arabia, national record holder at 46.35 indoors. He's got a best of 45.08 outdoors. And the tall figure, very tall figure, of Haran Odoli of Uganda on the inside, whose best is 45.59. But this will be fascinating to see. And Dory has that unique style, that forward-leaning style, and took Tebogo all the way to the line. Tebogo said he's not going to run too many more 400s. He's going to be back down to his more familiar 200s, as we'll see shortly, and 100s. But Ndori is all about the 400s. Missed the Olympic final by 2/100ths of a second, did Bayapo Ndori. His best performance in a global final, 6th in the World Championship final in Eugene, Oregon in 2022. He's from Gaborone. This is home turf for Bayapo Ndori. And they will expecting that man to deliver. Leongo Scotch, seasoned relay performer. Hasn't quite hit the same heights individually on the global stage. Made the Paris semi-final, the Tokyo semi-final, a World Championship semi-final. Big part of their relay squad. And what sort of shape is Lythe Pillay in lane 6? Another of the Olympic semi-finalists. So another delay, unfortunately, bit of movement, bit of noise possibly down at the start, which gives Hannah a bit of time to come in and say what you're expecting from this, Han.
Well, I was looking back at sort of Botswana in the men's 400 metres, and Isaac Mokwala is still the only man to have gone under 44, and you just feel like they're queuing up, waiting to do that. Of course, we had Letsile Tebogo's 43.04 relay split, which was just disgusting. But in terms of the open, you get a rolling start, especially for a sprint guy. Yeah, that's so important. But Kevin Chippy isn't here. He was racing in the Grand Slam track event. But
He's due to be in the 200.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. But these athletes are just chipping away at their personal best. And if they could dip under 44 and make it another athlete from their nation under that barrier, that'd be great. The meeting record, 43.91. From some of the times we've seen in the other events, perhaps that could be under threat.
Yeah, keep an eye on that clock, definitely. And Dory will be very, very keen in his home city to set new marks. And from his marks, he's away. Strong start from Nene, one from the outside with his teammate Lythe Pillay on his inside, but pretty even through that first turn. Maybe just Nene, one from the outside at the moment, but now Ndori starting to get into his running with that slight forward lean up on Pillay on his inside. And Ndori really is going now, and Scotch is not able to go with him. Epi on his inside, the third of the Botswanans in those central lanes. Right on the outside of Casey of Nigeria, but it's Ndori with the advantage. The stagger will unwind in his favour. Nene of South Africa. Pillay will try and come between the two, and Scotch will try and rally as well, but he's going backwards at the moment. But it's Ndori being challenged now by Nene, one from the outside, but Ndori has enough of an advantage, and it's another Continental Tour gold victory for Bayapo Ndori to delight the Botswanan fans here in Gaborone. Held off the rest, started steadily, finished strongly, and won.
And Dory had a lovely job there to have a great lane draw. I think some athletes prefer perhaps the softer bends of 6 or 7, maybe later in the season when you're trying to hit your absolute peak. But in terms of being able to pace at this stage in the season, to get lane 5 and have those athletes queued up outside to gauge your effort off, I think worked out brilliantly for Bayapo and Dory. And let's just hope he can push his way into those major championship finals. But we mentioned those nations that are enjoying a purple patch in the relays as well, and Botswana with their 4x4 and their 4x1, they're getting the young athletes exposed to a great level of competition, and it's helping them. We've already seen it with Tebogo. He's all the way there being able to compete with the very best, but the likes of Bayapo and Dory having the opportunity to take a Continental Tour gold win in front of a home crowd when he's already got a decent level of experience is just a wonderful boost for his career.
There's a great shot there from that head-on of the crowd behind, all waving the flags, jumping up and down, looking up at the screen to see whether Ndori was going to see it through, which he did in 44.35. Again, if that time is taken at face value, what an impressive performance from Ndori, ahead of Nene, who ran very well on the outside, and that would be a personal best performance for him as well. And Dory ran 45.14, just for context, in beating Tobago in Melbourne in the Maury Plant meet in the Continental Tour Gold. But that is what or part of what the home fans came for anyway. One leg of the Botswanan hopes, with Letsile Tobago still to come.
It's like Christian Pulli, Finland, former European indoor bronze medalist, just having his attempt along Old Trip for the Finnish athlete. Although, as you keep mentioning, Chris, he's probably been training in the likes of Potchefstroom or Stellenbosch. It's favoured by so many of the European athletes, both in January and at this Easter period. Pulli just questioning perhaps what that was measured at. Just going to have an ask about it. Right, we have two 800-metre races coming up. Women first, then men. And the men features massive local interest with Masalela and Hangora, but we'll get to that in a moment. Focus on the women first. So there are 10 races in this women's 800 metres. And Helena Vogel of Austria, back from a new lifetime best set in the 400. She's going to be doing the pacemaking. She's been asked to go through in 59 seconds. So there's 10 of the races. And I do think we're going to be due to see Evelina Meitinen as well of Finland. She's the one missing off that for me. There she is, Evelina Meitinen. Just gone straight from Christian Pulli in the men's long jump to another Finnish athlete here in the 800. The lane draw there, very different than what I was expecting. So I have to try and identify these athletes. That's Lebogen Segolame and Shane Svort. Sharing lane 1, the South African Shane Svort. I'm sure she was incredibly motivated and inspired by Prudence Segodiso and her win at the World Indoor Championships. Svort turning into a very good athlete herself as well as Asta Areri of Ethiopia, Ethiopian junior champion last year. That was Helena Vogel. She'll be doing the pacemaking on the outside and sharing a lane with Evelina Meitinen. It's actually a former 400 hurdle international for Finland. She's closing in on Sarah Kavusta's national record, though, well under 2 minutes, consistently under 2 minutes in her career. That's Judy Kimunto of Kenya. And they've all got themselves in the wrong lanes here. They're all in the wrong order. There's Asta Areri of Ethiopia, the 17-year-old. I mentioned she was the Ethiopian junior champion. There you go. They're all saying, we're definitely not where we're meant to be. That's Sarah Mora, the cousin of Mary Mora. She was the world junior champion, went under 2 minutes for the first time at the Ethiopian Olympic trials, and then backed that up with a gold medal in Lima. So there's Judy Kimunto again, alongside Asta Areri again. Poor Asta Areri. I think she's meant to be in lane 4 on her own. But now she's standing with Oratil Noe of Botswana. Okay, maybe she was in the wrong lane. So Oratil Noe, the first ever athlete from her country to go under 2 minutes, and she's improved massively this season already. 1:59.2, could definitely compete in this field. This is Sakina El Haji of Morocco, bronze medalist at the African Championships last year, very close to 2 minutes. Okay, she should be sharing with Matumelo Gotsbagotsi, I think she is, and that takes us to Shane Svort, the World University Games bronze medalist a couple of years ago. First time under 2 minutes in March for the South African. She's also hit a 4-second 1500 metre personal best, 4:11 for her. So plenty of strength for the woman in red in lane 1, sharing with Segolame of Botswana. So the 10 athletes, hopefully where they were meant to be, doesn't matter. They're just going to stay in those lanes for another 50 metres, cut for the inside, elbows out, and they will race this 800 metres. Helena Vogel was a new lifetime best, first time under 56 seconds for the Austrian around about an hour ago. So let's hope she's recovered. She's done well here to get ahead of this busy field. I think the Austrians made the right decision here because it's very congested behind. She's got to get herself well ahead of this field, but it is very quick through the first 200 metres. And Oratil Noe, the new sub-2 runner, alongside another new woman in new territory, Svort of South Africa, trying to put a show on here for the home crowd. You can see the pacemaker through 300 metres in around about 41:42, very, very quick. The athletes behind still very much on 2 minute pace, but they're going to have to kind of keep that pace going, as surely Vogel will step aside as we hear the bell.
And Sarah Mora, another of those sub-2 athletes, the African champion and the world under-20 champion over 800 metres, will be the one that has pedigree that others know about as they all cluster up. She's got herself in a good spot here. Sarah Mora, the challenger, the yellow from Judy Kimunto of Kenya, coming around the outside. And Shana Swart, that sub-2 performance, as you mentioned already, Hannah, in the red, right on the inside as well. But Sarah Mora is well positioned at the moment.
Oratil Noe, loads of experience in the 4x4, and if you run in the second, third or fourth legs, you are going to have bodies around you like this. Oratil almost looking around saying, where is everybody? I'm feeling good. I'm in front of a home crowd. She's checking right, she's checking left. 200 metres to go for the local athlete. Already under 2 minutes this season. Could she go further under? And with that kick, with 180 metres left to go, Oratil Noe looking like the athlete to beat here. A late charge from Shane Swart of South Africa. Has she left it too late? And here comes Sarah Mora, the world junior champion last year, but nobody can get on terms with Oratile Noe of Botswana. She's going to win here in front of a home crowd in Gaborone. And look at the clock, a wonderful new lifetime best for Oratile Noe. She's already the first athlete from Botswana to go under 2 minutes, and now she's the first woman to go under 1:59 as well. What a season from her so far. High five from Sport, who might have troubled her lifetime best of 1:59.45 with that third place finish. And Sarah Mora, not that familiar on the circuit yet. She's been ruling the junior roosts and running a few big Kenyan races. But to be here at Continental Tour Gold is a good experience for Sarah Mora. But she'll have to go away and figure out how to beat Oratil Noe. Brilliant win for the 24-year-old.
Well, great progression in the last 4 races from Norway. 2 minutes 88, 1:59.46, 1:59.22. All of those were in South Africa. And then she returns to her native Botswana, Noe, and improves her national record into the 1:58s. That's a brilliant performance. It was an eye-catching run as well from Swart of South Africa, 23 years of age, also fresh off that sub-2 this year as well. The athlete in the red, right on the inside, who had to get through quite a bit of traffic to get herself into a prominent position. And Sarah Mora, well, when the kick came from Noe, just didn't have the answers, did she? But again, one to keep an eye on, certainly, with someone like Mary Mora in your family history as well. Sarah Mora already carrying the family name well through the early part of her career.
Oratil Noe, she was just looking around at 200 metres. I think she was probably looking for Sarah Mora and saying, where's the danger from anyone that wins a World Junior title? That brings so much prestige with it, and you'd definitely be intimidated racing against them. But Oratil Noe, she had a real plan for me coming into this race. Nothing was accidental. She was very focused throughout the competition, and there was a big push at 200. And that's a long way to go in an 800. If people are starting to struggle to question themselves, if you can get a jump there with a quarter of the race still to go, it's hard for other athletes to get back on terms with you.
Great performance. So we've seen 2 big Botswanan victories in the last couple of events to delight the home fans packed inside the National Stadium here in Gaborone. Still with lots of home hopes to come as well, not least Mr. Tebogo.
It's Jovan van Vuren of South Africa. Huge personal best, 8:30 last March. And still in the top 10 world list when the season ended. So Jovan van Vuren, if he can just recapture that domestic form on the international stage, we should be seeing him in major championship finals. But time for this men's 800 metres. It's absolutely stacked. I mentioned the two local athletes, Kentabogile Hangora is the outdoor world lead. I thought he was due to be on the inside there. We'll have to wait and see. You can see his name there with number 9 next to him. That's Kentabogile Hangora, 1:43 in Johannesburg in March. He's the outdoor world lead. Only Josh Hoey has gone faster this year, the American, who's been tearing up the all-time records indoors. And we've also, in I think lane 5, going to have Chapiso Masalela of Botswana. There he is. He's got Masalela. That's what happens if you're an athlete of his calibre, a double global finalist. You get your name, not just a number. So Masalela, maybe one of the athletes to really watch. You can see the other athletes. Ferguson Rotich was just getting the acknowledgements from the crowd, the silver medalist in Tokyo. And there is Chapiso Masalela. He lowered his own 1,500-metre national record by 5 seconds. Just a couple of weeks ago, so that endurance is certainly there. The tall figure of Nicholas Kiplangat will go in lane 4. He's been given his own lane. And the figure behind him, 123, Steeplechase of South Africa. He started his career as an 800-metre athlete. His personal best from 2022 is 144. He's reinvented himself as a 1500-metre athlete. And he finished just behind Masalela the other day in that 1500-metre race. You can see him almost glaring at the back of Masalela saying, I don't want to get beaten by you again. I don't care if we're in Botswana. And Steeplechase sharing lane 3 with Justice Kipkoech of Kenya. The likes of Jan Vukovic behind, but this is the pacemaker Khaled Ben-Madi of Algeria, alongside Kelvin Loti, Kenyan Olympic Trials finalist. They're out in lane 8. The pace that's been asked for is 51 seconds. The meeting record 144.6 from Abel Kipsang in 2023. I wonder if Masalela and Hangura could push each other to go underneath that. Hangura 143.88 so far this season. He's got 127 on his chest. Have to wait to identify him. I think that could be him just getting himself out of trouble. That's a Nkape, 128 on the inside. And there's 127, the yellow vest. That's the man we're looking for. Kentabule Hangura, the fastest athlete in the field so far this year, 143.88. And he's slotted in behind Masalela. And great pacemaking here from Ben-Madi as well. He eased himself ahead of the field and then pushed on in the third 100 metres just to stretch the field out. And Chapiso Masalela, 142.82 in the Olympic final, emulating the likes of Nigel Amos for Botswana, flying the flag for 800 metres. He is sticking to the pacemaker so closely here as they come through the bell. It's underneath 51 seconds.
Well, they're rattling along here. Shite at the moment's got plenty of work to do. The slight figure right on the inside, a couple from the back who had that brilliant run with Masalela over 1,500 metres in Cape Town last week, which produced some history book-making performances as well. And Shite, all of a sudden, we talk about him being in trouble, darts out from the inside to come alongside Masalela up front.
That was a big move from Steeplechase. Masalela, he's managed to hold on to the lead. Somehow, as there's chaos behind, all the athletes impeding each other. That was Loti of Kenya, perhaps getting a clip from behind. But Masalela is in the lead, but he's got Kentabole Hangura, his teammate, alongside him. These two, stride for stride, into the last 100 metres. Will it be the 1,500-metre strength of Masalela or the current form of Kentabole Hangura rising to the fore? There is Hangura, the 143 man this season, converts that into a 144 in front of a home crowd, and an important win for Kentabole Hangura at this stage in his career, managing to finish ahead of Chapiso Masalela, the two-time global finalist. That is wonderful from Hangura, and really backing up that 143 form, showing that wasn't a fluke. That was a really calm run from Hangura. All the pressure perhaps on Masalela, particularly coming off that 330 a couple of weeks ago. Everyone will say, well, the strength there is the speed there. And today, for Chapiso Masalela, it wasn't quite there. He couldn't live with Kentabole Hangura in the last 40 or 50 metres.
It's a big scout for Hangura. A fine performance, a bit of chaos, as you mentioned, Hannah, coming around the home turn. We'll wait and see, or maybe on a replay, as to how that affected those up front. It certainly sent Shite wide, who got himself off the curb into a good position and then was affected slightly, had to run even wider. But Hangura on the inside, it opened up from him. He's beaten some good athletes there. Masalela, the second fastest Botswana athlete in history after Nigel Amos. Further back in the field, as you say, maybe a hard 1,500 metres where he ran 3:30 in Cape Town, maybe having an effect in a relatively quick turnaround. But what a performance from Kentabole Hangura, the African Championship silver medalist, national champion over 1,500 metres, proving himself pretty versatile. And Masalela, unfortunately, not able to deliver a third Botswanan victory in succession for the home fans.
Big field here, 11 races and one pacemaker. And I think that's what you could see in some of the clashes that we saw throughout this men's 800 metres. Steeplechase put a wonderful move in about 200 metres time. We'll have to see if we see that coming into the last 200 metres. Here we go, the pacemaker's dropped out. Steeplechase was all the way back, and somehow he weaved his way through the field. And then it got impeded by some other athletes that were pushing and barging and shoving. But in the end, Kentabole Hangura, it's an important win ahead of Masalela, but to do it in a physical, tactical race like that as well, it is really, really important.
Ferguson Rotich, the Olympic silver medalist from Tokyo, continuing his comeback, of course, 35 years of age. He hadn't competed since June last year until a couple of low-key, hand-timed performances in the 150s. from Rosich, who will have certainly broken 150 there with his performance. So that'll be a step forward and a better race for the Olympic silver medalist, continuing his comeback. So those are the sights here at the National Stadium in Gaborone, where next up is the man they've come to see, or one of many athletes they've come to see, but one who's been creating the headlines, has been on all the marketing material, and why wouldn't he be? He's an Olympic champion. Letsile Tebogo lining up in lane number 7. One of our penultimate events here in the Golden Grand Prix in Botswana. He's got Emmanuel Esemi inside him, who was due to run in the 100 metres earlier on, was a DNS in that, so is saving himself for this 200 metres, saying that he is there when we see him. Luxolo Adams on the outside for South Africa, continuing his comeback from some injury issues and some fallout issues with the governing body of South Africa last year as well, concerning his Paris Olympic selection. But Tebogo, 21 years of age, is due to be in lane 7, thank goodness for that. I just saw lane 7 empty for a second, and then Tebogo appeared from behind the camera, wearing race number 100, is the Olympic champion over 200, who of course was also in that Olympic 100-metre final for the ages in Paris as well, where he finished 6th in 9:86. But this is Luxolo Adams on the outside. Was originally in the South Africa team for the Olympics last year, then couldn't prove his fitness, according to the governing body. But here's the Olympic champion over 200 metres. The national hero of Botswana, who's been racing over 400 metres in the run-up to this. Emmanuel Esemi of Cameroon is not there, so he's a DNS from the whole meeting. So there's Taekwondo Tracy, who's already run in the 100 metres a little bit earlier on. Ian Kerr of Bahamas is also having a little bit of a resurgence as well. Made the Paris Olympics in the 200 metres. It was his first global championship for 10 years for the Bahamian. Ian Kerr goes in 3. Spent a lot of time in the US as well. There's Kobe Vlemings of Belgium, who's also doubling up. Ran earlier on the 100 metres. This is his first outdoor meet of the season. Claude Bogogny of Cameroon set a national record last year of 20.28 over 200 metres. He is in 2. And on the inside, also fresh off a new personal best, Cabo Rankwe of Botswana, 21.18, set in Francistown in the northeast of Botswana a couple of weeks ago. But Tebogo, one from the outside with the empty lane vacated by Esemi on his inside. The standout favourite, the crowd favourite, the Botswanan favourite, and the flag bearer for African sprinting. We saw an outstanding run from Akani Simbini earlier on at the other end of his career, but still with plenty to offer. The amount that Letsile Tebogo has to offer is at the moment unquantifiable. What can he deliver for his home fans here in Gaborone? The men's 200 metres at the Golden Grand Prix. Adams, South Africa, right on the outside. Tebogo, 6 is empty. Then Tracy, Kerr, Vlemings in 3, Bogogny in 2, and Rankwe on the inside. Keep an eye on the clock for this one. They're away, and Tebogo almost seemed to take out 2 or 3 strides on the athlete. Adams outside him immediately from the blocks. Vlemings is going out strongly in the red for Belgium on the inside as well, already through on Kerr. But Tebogo will start to get moving now. He has got some challenges on the inside, but Tebogo looks to be running well within himself and easing away for a comfortable victory, shutting it right down, and still just outside 20 seconds for Letsile Tebogo. Well, they came to see him win, and win he did in his own inimitable style. Letsile Tebogo dominated at some percentage of his maximum.
Letsile Tebogo, it looked like a commitment to the start. It looked like maybe he was practicing his start there. And around the top bend, around about halfway, hopefully we'll see it on the replay. Luxolo Adams, that was when he kind of, I think he just turned on the afterburners. Is a skill to running round the bend and off the bend. And I suddenly thought Luxolo Adams is gaining on Tebogo, or certainly stopped losing ground. But I think that Letsile Tebogo was just doing enough to win today. And we mentioned the fact it's 5.5 weeks to go until the World Championships, until he can have another shot at a global title. And perhaps Letsile Tebogo just respecting where he is in his training. As we have a look here at the replay, Letsile Tebogo, great start up on Luxolo Adams. And if we just wait, for 20 or 30 metres, you see here Luxolo Adams he suddenly starts holding on to, okay, it was very short-lived, around about 20 metres. The South African was holding on to Tebogo, but he's built up so much speed, so much momentum, he can pretty much walk across the line. We know he's in form from those 400 metres. He has been racing, he is fit, but I think Letsile Tebogo perhaps just holding a little bit back here in Gaborone and saving those fast times for races in the next couple of weeks.
Just watching Adams on the outside there. I don't know if he just stumbled or felt something as well. It was slightly awkward. He's just holding his left hamstring there. So Adams, who's had a number of issues trying to get himself back to the top level, the World Championship finalist from a couple of editions ago. Hopefully he's okay at this early stage of the season. But as you say, Tebogo was shutting it down from pretty early on. His 200-metre season debut. He's going to be appearing pretty early on in the Diamond League circuit as well. Africa, of course, have never won a men's Olympic 100 metres medal. Simbini's come so close. Tebogo, even though he was 6th, was within a whisker of getting a medal in Paris. 6th sounds like you're miles away, but actually in that final he was within a couple of hundredths of a second. As we see confirmation, 20.23 the winning time for Letsile Tebogo, who came for the win. The fans came to see him win, and they got that. Adams in the end ran well for second on his comeback, and Flemings ran well for a very long way as well, ran a good bend, 20.45.
And you could see the stand up at the far side of the picture now when the athletes were in their blocks. That was absolutely full with everybody waiting to see Letsile Tebogo. This stadium, of course, absolutely rammed for his homecoming tour in August. And I remember he came to the homecoming tour and these pictures of it being absolutely bonkers, everybody all around him. And he thought his season might be over and his coach said, no, come on, there's a few more Diamond Leagues to go. And he saw this very tired young man kind of drag himself back over to Europe to do a few more races. But the year he had last year, losing his mum in May, tragically, and somehow the performances were up and down when he started competing again. And he said his whole team were very kind to him, very supportive, kind of took that pressure away. And he managed to kind of regain that focus and that ability to put himself in such an exposing environment just in time for the Olympics. And it was wonderful to see him get that fairy tale ending. Just have a look back across some of the results from earlier on in this 2-hour programme. And Mbata, the 17-year-old from South Africa, took the first win of the day by just 100th ahead of Wiseman Makobe. New personal best for the South African as well, 49.06.
This is how the women's 400 metres hurdles turned out. Dalilah Mohammed, the former world record holder, a world and Olympic champion as well, on her farewell tour this year. She said that 2025 will be her final year. Whether it ends with another World Championships remains to be seen, but was a comfortable victor over the barriers today ahead of her compatriot Cassandra Tate, with Zane Geldenhuis in 3rd.
We then had 2 women's 400-metre races. Hannah van Niekerk snuck the win in the first one, 52.72, a personal best by around about a second for the 400 hurdles specialist. And she did all of that in the last 30 or 40 metres, giving herself a half-second victory ahead of Precious Mboppa.
Also dominant in the 400 metres from the word go was Bassant Hamida, who went charging out through the first couple of 100 metres, but managed to hold it together with a good fill behind her as well. South Africa in 2nd and 3rd with Miranda Kutseya and Shirley Nakubi.
Men's steeplechase saw a win for Halimariam Amare, 8.28. The Ethiopian looked delighted to take a win here in Botswana. It was a tightly fought race, just a small margin of victory in the end, ahead of Mikesi Fakadu and Demelash Germa, a 1-2-3 for Ethiopia.
Refilwe in the women's 100 metres had a difficult inside lane, but made light of it, coming home as a comfortable victor in the end, leading a Botswana 1-2-3-4.
And we had 2 women's 100-metre races, almost a dead heat between Hannah Vermeek and Jinkwi Vivwe of South Africa. But Vermeek was given the nod in the end from lane 1. And Victoria Forster, just 100th behind, the Slovakian, took 3rd place. And then we went over to the men's 100 metres.
Where Karim Abdulrahman of South Africa was an impressive winner, 10.07. Another dominant performance from him. These 100 metres were raced into slight headwinds, around about minus 1.0 metres per second, but not this one. Minus 1.7 metres per second, yet still a world-leading time of 9.90 for Akani Simbini, the recent world indoor medalist. And Africa's 2 fastest men were the 2 fastest men in that race as well today.
a sensational run that I'm sure will give Akani Simbini, the bronze medalist for the World Indoor Championship, so much confidence going into the year.
Christian Iguasel, that came up as a national record. That's not the case in that 45.66 for Belgium, one of their regular relay performers at major championships. But it was a well-judged race from him. Timo van Rijk was in the ascendancy for quite a while in that race, but Iguasel timed his strike perfectly on the home straight to win by around about a metre. Bayapo Ndori delighted the Botswanan fans inside the Gaborone National Stadium with a victory over the challenge of Zakiti Nene of South Africa and Lythe Pillay. Leongo Scotch also for Botswana down in 5th position.
Making it 2 out of 3 in the top 3 for South Africa. Chidi Okezi for Nigeria.
Then double the distance, 800 metres for women first. Oratil Noe with a new national record, lowering her own best to 1:58.96 to give herself the win ahead of the world junior champion Sarah Mora of Kenya and Shane Swart of South Africa. An important 3rd place for her, just outside 2 minutes.
Impressive time of 1:59.46. Shane Swart, 2 minutes and 0.
And on the men's side, it was a Botswana 1-2. Ketabogile Hangora just getting the win ahead of Chapiso Masalela. Really competitive tactical race from all 10 men in this field. Laban Chepkone of Kenya coming out in 3rd.
1-2 for Botswana, much to the delight of the home crowd.
And then we saw the flag bearer for Botswanan Athletics, Letsile Tebogo. 20.23 doesn't really tell the story of his run because it was dominant from the start. He came for the victory. He got the victory ahead of the returning Luxolo Adams of South Africa.
What a day. Bright sunshine here in Gaborone. I hope you've enjoyed the action at the FNB Botswana.
So those are the live scenes here at the Gaborone National Stadium. Stop number 2 on the Continental Tour Gold. We continue throughout the year, of course. Next up will be the Golden Grand Prix in Tokyo. That comes up in just over 5 weeks from now. But for myself, Chris Temple and Hannah England, thanks for your company. It's goodbye for now.
He just pulled it from Finland. It's a no jump. It's a no jump. DJ.
I feel great, you know, because I 200 and 200 meter season.
Yeah, it's a tough tata.
Seven, 7.67. Hani Nikitemba. Next, Dendi Marquez, world indoor champion in long jump from United States. Let's give him a hand, please. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes, I'm very impressed. That's a new personal best. And it was really fun. I had a lot of, I would say I was very nervous. Like the big crowds walking out of here. But I had fun. Yes, it was, it was amazing.
Let's talk about the vibe, people cheering for you. How was that for you?
That's always fun. It makes you excited, gets you a little nervous, but makes you want to go even faster and run even harder. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Even though it was challenging, but the race went well. Yeah, it was just a matter of being focused and forget about the rest thing that was happening before the race. Yeah.
Mental preparation is very important. How did you psych yourself to make sure that whatever comes, you're going to tackle it?
Coach always mentor us on training. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays we have that mental session. So this is
I'm very impressed. It's a new PB. I did not expect this for my first international competition, and running against all these older people, and I'm only 17. Yeah.
How was the preparation to this?
Just like normal. Just had to prepare mentally more because I had a little bit of nerves. Yes. Thank you.
It was good. There was a technical problem in the beginning, which threw my mind off a little bit, but we had to focus and get the job done.
Let's talk about your target.
It's going well. Hopefully we project onto the season, gets better, get faster, and we see what happens. It was good, especially with the crowd. The crowd's amazing. Everyone cheering for everyone. It's good. It's a good environment to run in. I'm happy with it. Thank you very much.
yeah, it's a tough tata, but it's easy to me.
What did the crowd mean to you guys? Having Botswana by the supporter, how was it?
Yeah, ke tumela thata gore ba re support-ile thata. Ka itumela thata ke bona go tetse for supporting. Thank you.
I feel great, because I wanted to be on 200-meter season. The body wanted to go for faster times, but personally, mentally, emotionally, and everything else, I'm not ready for that. That's why I had to ease up going towards the line. But I believe as we progress through the season, then it means now we can start dropping those fast times.
When talking about fast times, man, it's the year of world championships rather. What do you intend to achieve with this season? What does Lisile want to do?
First of all, it's a recovery season for us. So, but definitely, the podium finish is those 3 podiums. One of them is for us, so they will sort themselves out. But yeah, man, it's just to finish up like how we did at the 2023 World Championships.
Let's talk about the support. How phenomenal Botswana has been and has always been, running behind literally every Botswana taking on the track.
It feels great. It feels amazing to know that everybody is rallying behind my back and everybody is supporting every athlete out there. Just that there's going to be a little bit of differences in between, but they are supporting everybody out there.
And to have an athletic event, next year we are hosting World Championships. How exciting is it to see this stadium, this, I would say this field, looking at the fact that next year we are going for a big one?
I mean, so far, with the numbers that we have here, it's amazing. It's great to host the big championship. And I feel like we are ready, Botswana, the government and everybody, to put it out there, to show people the support.
Right. Let this season be a successful one. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you so much.